All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. We're going to be covering the top 10 starting pitchers from none other than Corey Pieper with me. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. We are talking pitchers. It's so deep this year. When I was trying to get it down to 10, I was like, man, there's like 17 guys I want to put in here. So
Yeah, I
it's
bet.
going to be an exciting talk.
Yeah, it's always interesting to try to pick the top 10 pitchers. There's just so many, and there's always going to be guys that are coming. Like, I mean, Skubal wasn't being drafted nearly as high as he's going this year, but everybody liked him, right? So they were drafting him probably earlier than anybody thought he was going to go. And then, he blew up, and now he's like the number one or number two pitcher. So we'll get to that, obviously. But before we jump into all that, though, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe button with that little bell to remind you to jump on in here when we go live or we post new videos. Leave those comments. We love hearing from you. And jump over to fantasysixpack.net/plans. Become an all-access member. You're going to get access to our award-winning rankings, the draft cheat sheet that'll be coming out in a couple of weeks. We've got projections. You can ask me and Corey and the rest of the staff over there at Fantasy Six Pack on our Discord all your custom league and team advice there, which is super invaluable, honestly, in my opinion. And if you want to play against us in a fantasy baseball league, we've got one for you free over on Fantrax. We host the Fantasy Six Pack series. Jump on over. It's at the top. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter at F6P_Joe. The link to sign up. Just jump in, and it's just a big tournament style league. Multiple divisions, all fighting for one champion. You're gonna get that bad boy trophy there, the baseball one here. So if you win it, so hopefully. I mean, maybe not. Hopefully, you can come take
It's
me
a
down.
humble brag. He's humble bragging that it's behind him right now.
I mean, yeah, of course I am. Wouldn't
As
you?
he should. As he should.
I could be humble bragging that these other three are behind me, but we'll get there.
Boom.
Ooh, there'll be four soon. Yeah,
I love it, man.
All right, well, let's jump into the starting pitchers with your number 10, George Kirby, guy who has phenomenal ratios. Strikeouts aren't really his thing, but do you like him enough without the strikeouts?
I think it's just consistent enough that I'll put him at 10. The strikeouts aren't bad, but they're not what you're looking for. He's more of the accumulator. So 191 innings last year. I think that was 10th in baseball, 9th in baseball. It was in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
But 179 strikeouts.
Right,
so we're not getting the strikeout and inning we want, but it's not far off. We're at 8.5. And then it's just the consistency of everything else. He's been in the league 3 years. His ERA is set between 3.35 and 3.53, and it's pretty much fully supported by the FIP. And yes, the walks are, the control is unbelievable. He's been in the league now. He has pitched 511 innings and has walked a total of 64 batters in his career, which is just that's just amazing. So last year it was 23, which was actually a career high. It tells you how insane that is. But the whip isn't as good as you think. It's 106 or 1.07, which is certainly good, but he led baseball in hits allowed too, because he's in the zone so much. I actually wish he would throw a few more balls. I think it would actually help him get a few more strikeouts and not give up as many hits. But he's really good. It's really consistent. There's not a lot of bad things you can say about George Kirby. Yes, you should probably try to get a strikeout artist later in the draft, but there are a lot of those guys this year. There's players later, like draft Pablo Lopez. I think he's got like a 6th round ADP, 7th round. Draft Pablo Lopez with him. You've banked one safe person for ratios, and then you get a high strikeout option, something like that. And I'll take the consistency of George Kirby early.
Yeah. If I'm going early pitcher, Kirby's not my guy, but I totally get it. I do like the Lopez pairing there. You just hope he doesn't do what he did last year to you. My goodness, he had quite a few blow up games. But moving on here, number 9, Blake Snell. Now, if this were August and September, he'd be number 1 on your list, but we have to get a full season, right? So number 9.
It is another one. It is so hard to rank Blake Snell because, like you just said, when he is on, he's the best pitcher in baseball, and he'll do it for. It was the 2023 season, the second half of the season, best pitcher in baseball, brought home the Cy Young Award. Last year, last 2 months, once again, he's probably the best pitcher in baseball. It just took him a while to get going, and when he started the year, it was unplayable in fantasy.
Yes.
I mean, it was not just bad last year, it was miserably bad because remember, he started late, he signed late with the Giants, and so they had to get him going, and then he got hurt, and I had Blake Snell on a few teams, and your ratios started off so far behind that it was hard to make it up. But then when he gets going, it's insane down the stretch. So the last part of the season there, he has a 34.7% strikeout ratio. That only Garrett Crochet only Garrett Crochet has a higher percentage of pitchers with at least 100 innings pitched. It's phenomenal. And now he has gone to the team in baseball that I think if I was going to bank on getting wins for, it would be the Dodgers. So move that up a little bit. Yeah, you got to just ride the highs and lows, but the highs are so good that I'll take Blake Snell early.
Yeah. Just like for those who weren't looking and paying attention to his stat lines last year, oh my gosh, were they horrendous. Like March and April, 11.5 ERA. May was 8.59. June was 5.79.
And then he dialed in. Is that about the time that he dialed in?
So good. He obviously had injuries during those times because he didn't pitch a lot in May and June. July, 0.75. August, 1.64. September, 1.
That's what he does.
What? Like
what he does.
Unreal. So good down the stretch. If you could ever put that together, like, I mean, legit would probably break records.
It would be an historic season. If you would get 30 games of Blake Snell being good, it would be an historic season. And I don't know if we'll ever get that, but even with the inconsistencies we get now, in the end of the year, he ends up being really valuable for fantasy teams.
Yes, sir. Number 8, Dylan Cease. Another guy who I think, man, the ceiling is so high for this guy, but man, he's got some warts.
So right now, still a member of the Padres. There's been talk of him being traded. You're an Orioles fan, right?
Yes, I am.
Been talk of him being traded to the Orioles. That's a possibility, but right now, still a member of the Padres. The strikeouts, that's the most bankable skill right now from Dylan Cease. He has went over 200 strikeouts the last 4 seasons, including 224 last year. And that's only in 189 innings. He does not need to pitch a ton of innings to rack up strikeouts because his stuff is so good. The ERAs fluctuate with Cease because sometimes he has problems with walks. That was not the case last year. The walks were down to a career low per 9 innings at only 3, which helped him have a 3.47 ERA. And part of the reason that I have him this high, because he kept his whip down. That has been an issue. Just in 2023, his last year with the White Sox, that got up to 1.42. That's high. We don't want that. And then last year, you get the walks down. He always has good stuff. So you're going to get the hits limited. Limit the walks 1.07. And I think he can do it again. I think he's starting to figure out here. Would you drop that walk percentage down? Keep the K percentage high. Cease has all the upside. Another one. Basically, from Blake Snell up, you can make a case for that person to finish as the top pitcher in fantasy baseball pretty easily. And Cease is on that list.
Yeah, I remember looking at his crazy good 2022 season, right? When he had the 2.2 ERA and, granted the 1.1 whip, but, 227 strikeouts. A big number that people were looking at, and rightfully so, was the left on base percentage of 82%. And everybody's like, that's got to come down, right? Like it has to come down. Like that's crazy high. And it did big time. He got obliterated by the walks. So yeah, he figured something out last year that, keep guys guessing, but you can't be so wild that you're just allowing so many players on base because it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. So you can't do that kind of thing. So hopefully he turned it around, and yeah, I would love to see him in an Orioles uniform. I just don't want to give up too much of our farm for a Cease. I mean, we might have to do it. It's just it sucks to try to empty the well. And some of the trades the Orioles made last year were really bad, and you're like, ugh, just please
Trevor
don't.
Rogers. Oh boy.
Not even he got like had like 3 starts, and then they're like, nah, we'd be better off without you.
Take off the postseason.
Oh my
We can
god,
find something better.
he was
Yeah,
so
that's rough.
bad. I sat down to the minors.
Yeah.
Oh man, number 7, Logan Gilbert. What we got here?
Well, first off, he led baseball in innings pitched, 208. There was only 4 pitchers, I believe, that went over 200 innings last year, and Gilbert led them all.
Mm-hmm.
And then what makes it double valuable is he also led in whip. So when you have the pitcher who's pitching the most innings in baseball, also leading in whip, exceptionally valuable, 0.88 whip. Now, he was very unlucky. Notice we haven't talked about wins at all because it is the luckiest stat. It is a stat that you shouldn't use, but Logan Gilbert with his 3.23 ERA
seem to know a lot about that.
What was that?
Seattle Mariners pitchers seem to know a lot about that.
Exactly.
Felix Hernandez.
Yeah, that's weird that it's always the Mariners. I don't even pay attention to that. But yeah, 9-12 last year with his ridiculously low ERA and microscopic whip. So his xERA and xFIP suggest his ERA could have been even better. And so I like Logan Gilbert. I don't think I would bank on the 208 innings again, but he's proven to be pretty durable. So I think you can bank over 190 and you're going to get the strikeouts, and the ratios seem to be coming along with it. The K percentage jumped to a career high last year, 27%. Didn't come with more walks. Yeah. And that's why he's up here, right? Yeah. I was a little surprised to see the BABIP at 237. Now, BABIP's tough because we used to think that it was just going to like regress to around 300. But now that we have more data, he also gave up way less hard hit percentage too. So if you're not giving up as hard of hit balls, your BABIP can stay under maybe not 237, but 260, but below 260, and he'll still be fine. So I'm not worried about Logan Gilbert. I think I'm actually somehow low on him, which seems weird because I really like Logan Gilbert. I just maybe prioritize certain things a little differently.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And that's the number I was looking at too, that 236, 237 BABIP there. If that goes up to like even 250, 260, you could expect the ERA probably to climb to like 3.4 and the whip to climb to like 1.05.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Something like that. So, which is right in line with the projections that I'm looking at. So I think that's pretty reasonable. And yeah, I mean, if he can keep the strikeout rate up, which was always kind of one of his things, it was like, I mean, he's good, but like he's not elite because he's not striking out guys. It was it was kind of like George Kirby-ish, but it was, so you're like, I don't know. People fall in love with the strikeout. I do too, especially high in the drafts like that. But if he can repeat that, that's going to be really good for his value. So number 6, the ex-Oriole. Here's Corbin Burnes.
This one's tough because I have a hard time valuing Corbin Burnes because he's still very good, but it's not the same Corbin Burnes that we saw 2-3, was it even 4 years ago when he won the Cy Young Award with the Brewers? The years with the Brewers, the strikeouts were phenomenal, right? He's striking out. I think 1 year he got to like 10 or 12 per 9 innings.
So 12.6 and then 10.8 2 years in a row.
That's ridiculous.
He had a 13 season, but it wasn't a full season. That was the COVID year.
Wow, those are reliever like numbers from a starting pitcher.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
But now we've fallen to less than 1 per inning. He went 194 innings last year and struck out 181. So we're under 200 strikeouts for the first time in 4 years. And meanwhile, the ERA still looks fantastic. He had a 2.92 ERA to go along with that. So you're like, okay, well, something doesn't seem to make sense here. The whip was a little higher than what we're used to for him, but no one's going to bat an eye at basically 109, 110 in that range. But the strikeouts are a bit concerning, and now he's going to a new team. Baltimore had a great park to pitch in. He's going to Arizona, which isn't a bad park to pitch in. It's just not quite as good as Baltimore has been, to the point where they had to remove the fences.
Although they're fixing that.
They had to try to help out the hitters a little bit there and buy my guy Ryan Mountcastle. That's what we're doing with that, because I think he's going to be great this year. But on Burnes' case, I think he'll be good. But I also think I don't have the ADP in front of me, but I'm sure that he's probably going in the top 3 rounds, and I don't know. I just think I might pass.
32 is about where he's at right now.
32. So in
So
the top 3 rounds, I think I'll just
33,
pass
35, 32.
and take. I think I can get more bankable production in different ways. Like, do you have like where's Snell going?
Snell's down 52,
Yeah,
50, 54
I'll just
over the
wait.
3 sites that I have. Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I feel you. It's almost, this comes back to, we're going to get into this on the Fantasy Six Pack Hour over our draft, shows starting in the next couple of weeks here. But one of the shows we're going to talk about like draft tips and draft strategies and how to construct a lineup. Like there's 3 million ways to construct a fantasy baseball lineup. It really is paying attention to categories and what you're strong at and what you're weak at and where you need to go get guys. And you can take a Corbin Burnes early, but then you're going to have to focus on other things later. It like fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, fantasy hockey, where it's category based like that. Like you cannot just go straight up off of the top. You just can't go down the rankings list and just take guys.
no.
It's not like football, unless you're in a points league. Points leagues are maybe a little bit different, right? But in category type leagues, head-to-head categories, roto style leagues, you have to build your team based off of what you need. And if you take a Corbin Burnes, unless you're thinking he's going to get back to 240 strikeouts, or over 200 strikeouts, you're going to need to go find strikeouts later, kind of like with a few of these guys. But yeah, I mean, he's safe. He had a really bad August. Like I'm looking at this, a 7.36 ERA in August. It was just a weird season for him. Like it never really quite felt like the Corbin Burnes I thought we were getting here
Yep.
in Baltimore. So, I mean, I am still sad he's gone though. He's still a top.
He's great. And that's the thing I said. He's still a very good pitcher. If you just look at it and you're like, wow, this is still a good pitcher, but it's just not the Corbin Burnes that we've seen. And it's not that he's old. He's 30 years old. He still has the fantastic cutter that gets strikeouts, but it just feels like, I don't know. He's a tough one for me.
Yeah. And you're talking about a guy like BABIP, like it was down to 269, which is about average, but his batting average allowed was sky high for him, 225. It's usually below 200. Yeah. So something was just off last year. So maybe we'll see it, get corrected in Arizona. Who knows? But he's got to deal with, I mean, not just, he had to deal with the Yankees and Tampa and Boston and like that. And now he's got the Dodgers, the Padres, and he's got to go pitch in Coors Field a couple times, probably. Like, good luck, sir. Number 5, Cole Ragans. One of those guys that I talked about at the top of the show was kind of everybody's like draft sleeper, like, oh, I got to go get some Cole Ragans. And look, here he now is in the top 5 of drafts.
Yeah, the question going into last year was, could he sustain it? Because we'd only seen him have, was it maybe a dozen starts at the end of the 2023 season with the Royals, where he looked fantastic, but it was okay. Well, where did Cole Ragans come from? This guy was a guy who had been consistently injured with the Rangers and had never gotten a chance. Did Kansas City, is this the team that's going to unlock him in 2024? Was a pretty definitive yes. They've unlocked him, and he looks awesome. 186 innings, 223 strikeouts. You want to talk about strikeout percentage? 29%. That's great. The 3.14 ERA, I think he started to wear out a little bit down the end of the years. I know he had a little bit of a rough stretch towards the end, but still a 299 FIP. The difference with Ragans compared to some of the very, very top end pitchers are he walks just a few too many still. Still puts a few too many guys on base. He had an 8% walk percentage, which is high, but he doesn't give up a lot of hits. So the whip is still manageable at 114. It's a little higher than some of the guys we've talked about, but you can live with that when you're getting elite strikeout numbers from Cole Ragans. And at this point, he showed it 2 years in a row. So I'm banking elite strikeouts with a more consistent profile than, say, a Blake Snell, who allows those elite strikeouts, but it comes with a much more erratic whip and ERA.
Yeah. And you could argue like his ERA should have been lower, and FIP backs me up on this because his BABIP was at 290. It was really high. So maybe it's just that when he gets hit hard, but it's just one of the things that, like, if you're playing the game of regressing to the mean, then maybe that comes down and therefore the ERA drops because he's allowing less batters on, but he's got to correct the walks too. But yeah, very, very good pitcher. I do like some Cole Ragans. Chris Sale, a name who I never thought would be in the top 10 ever again, but here we are. We're all back in.
And now he's going to get hurt again.
I know, right?
And now he's going to get hurt again, because that's what was always. Oh man, can you imagine if Chris Sale could just stay healthy? Oh, is he going to stay healthy? And 2024 showed, hey, if he stays healthy, he still has the Hall of Fame chops that he's had his whole career. And so we got our first Cy Young award when he transitioned to the National League, won the National League pitching triple crown. So led in wins with 18. Don't really care about that, but led an ERA 2.38, and the strikeouts are still incredible. 225 strikeouts in 177 innings.
To me, the 18 wins aren't as impressive. It's the 3 losses
on a Braves team that struggled all year.
3 losses. I know, right? You only had 3 losses. You were dominating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what he was doing, right? He gave up 177 innings, 9 home runs, 9. That's so few, and that's the only way you can have an ERA like a 2.38. And here's the wild thing: you were talking about FIP with Cole Ragans a second ago. His FIP was lower than 2.38, meaning that they believes that he was unlucky at the 2.38, as that was only 2.09.
Now it was 3.14. Like what?
The question is, again, and we said it, right? He's 36 with an extensive injury history. So last year you were drafting him, I want to say, outside the top 10 rounds because he just hadn't showed anything for years. Now you're spending a top 35, top 40 pick on him. It's tougher, but we know what he can offer when he stays healthy. You just have to ask yourself, how risky do you want to be? Because the return can be best pitcher in baseball, and it can also be pitches 25 innings and then other injury strikes.
Yeah. He is the epitome of, this is why I don't draft pitchers early. Like exactly. Like Dave Eddy, yells it from the mountaintops in our Discord all the time. This is why I don't draft pitchers early. Pitchers suck, because you just get burned by him time and time again. So I get it. But Chris Sale is one of the best when he is healthy. That is for sure. Number 3, we've got Paul Skenes, the mustache.
The mustache. It is an impressive mustache. He is living every man's dream life, dating Livy Dunn. It's winning Rookie of the Year awards. It's a lucky man. And it's another one where, okay, so Chris Sale, we have an extensive history of when he's healthy, he's amazing, but he's got injury concerns. There's very little track record with Paul Skenes because he just wasn't up in time, and he's only a rookie last season. So we saw 23.
He got drafted in 2023, right?
Yeah, he was drafted in 2023.
Insane that he
pushed through right away, to make 23 starts last year, and they were, I don't know what word you want to use, phenomenal, exceptional, just whatever adjective you want to use here. But 1.96 ERA, 0.94 WHIP. He struck out in those 133 innings. He strikes out 170 batters, so over 11.5 per 9, or right at 11.5 per 9. There's some risk because he's throwing 100 miles an hour. He has not had real arm trouble up to this point, but who knows? If that's really the only concern with Paul Skenes is an arm trouble risk. As far as the other things are concerned, 23 innings, I feel pretty safe that he's going to generate strikeouts in droves. While I think the ERA probably goes up a little bit just on some natural regression, it won't be a lot. If you told me it was in the mid 2s to somewhere around 3 with a around 1 WHIP, I think that's perfectly bankable. And considering he just pitched 133 big league innings, and I think he had about 30 minor league innings, there really isn't an innings concern unless an arm injury strikes. But the price is high. And you were talking about don't draft pitchers early. I believe Paul Skenes has the highest has highest ADP of any of these pitchers.
Yeah, him and probably your number one. I mentioned him earlier. Skubal.
Yeah,
are like back to back as the top
okay.
two pitchers from ADP.
It's just a big ask. It's just the
I don't
price
take
that you
pitchers
can
that
pay.
early usually.
Yep. And that's the concern here. I think Paul Skenes deserves to be going in the top 2-3 pitchers, but first round's probably too rich for my blood too.
Yeah, I feel like if there's any position that's a little more replaceable later in the draft, and you can still get you can find elite like talent later, pretty often every year in the middle to almost the late part of your draft. It's pitching, so I do wait usually. I do kind of want one at least like bankable dude, but I'm not going to spend a first round pick on him. Unless it's like a 15 team league, something like that. Like that's a little different, but your standard like 10 to 12 team leagues, I'm gonna wait. There's a lot to be found.
Do you remember when pocket aces was the thing for a while?
Yes, and I never did it.
It just fell off, and I don't know, was it 3 years ago when pocket aces was a big deal?
I do remember that being a big thing.
And now
it was all over Twitter, and I was like, nah.
That was it. It was like I think we pushed to like maybe like 12, 13 pitchers in a 15 team league in the first 2 rounds, and it didn't make a lot of sense. And now we're back to, I don't know, 5, 6 maybe in the first couple rounds. But yep, so, the ups and downs.
Number 2, Mr. Zack Wheeler, who a lot of people have 3. I get it though. He's a little more dependable, got a bigger track record.
And that, yeah, you nailed it. If you want to put Skenes at 2, I'm not going to fight you. You want to put Skenes at 1, I'm not going to fight you. I think you can make the case for any one of these top 3 at the very top. But I'll put Zack Wheeler at 2 just because I just think it's extremely bankable, which if I'm going to take a pitcher that early, I want to limit the risk as much as possible. And what's the risk with Zack Wheeler? He's extremely durable. So we talk about Chris Sale as an injury concern. Paul Skenes has only done it once. Well, Zack Wheeler's thrown over 200 or over 190 innings 3 of the last 4 years. He's got his last time having, 2 years ago, he had an ERA of 3.61. Before that, that's the only time he's had an ERA over 2 or over 3 since 2019. The whip last year, 0.95. You're thinking, okay, well, that's a little lucky. Well, the last time he had a whip over 1.1 was 2020. So it's just every part of what Zack Wheeler offers is extremely consistent. He strikes out over a batter per inning like we want. Going back to that weird 2020 season. But if you take that away, he's doing that every year. If I'm going to take a pitcher early, I want a pitcher who I know is going to what he is going to provide me, and I feel confident that Zack Wheeler is going to give me strikeouts. He's going to give me innings with low ratios, and the Phillies are a pretty good team. So, like, if you're talking about wins, it's tough to predict them, but Zack Wheeler is more likely to win games for me than Paul Skenes on the Pirates. So I'll take Zack Wheeler at 2. If you want to put Zack Wheeler 1, I think that's fine too.
Yeah. Remember when we were drafting Aaron Nola ahead of Zack Wheeler for so many years in a row? Man, that was a huge mistake.
I don't know what to make of it. Aaron, we have a discussion sometime on the Fantasy 6-Pack Hour about Aaron Nola and his weird splits. But yeah, I do.
I've got lots of opinions about Aaron Nola. So yeah, let's go.
I can't wait.
And co-host AJ, the Phillies fan, will hate me for all of them.
Nice.
So he yells at me all the time. Cool. Tarik Skubal, no shocker. Cy Young Award winner from the AL. I mean, yeah, it's so good last year.
It's really good. Right? Like there isn't a whole lot you can say. You pretty much said it all there. There is not a lot you can say with Skubal. Do you remember when Skubal was the forgotten one of the Casey Mize, Matt Manning, Tarik Skubal?
Talking about drafting guys ahead of others, like, oh my goodness.
Another guy just like Chris Sale, won 18 games last year, 4 losses, but 239 ERA, 228 strikeouts. So he also won the AL version of the pitching triple crown. 192 innings. His FIP was 249, so that's fully repeatable. 0.92 whip. The strikeouts are all there. He's not giving up hard contact. He does not walk a lot of batters. It's the only concern is we've only really seen him get over 150 innings once, I guess. But that's a nitpick, absolutely a nitpick, because This guy struck out 30% of the batters he faced. A K rate over 30%. That's just ridiculous. He plays in a very good pitching park. I think that he's as likely as anyone to repeat and get another Cy Young award. But again, it all comes down to price. If you're willing to give up your first round pick to get Tarik Skubal, I think he'll probably give you fair value. I'll just probably take a hitter there.
Yeah, I agree with you. Kind of some of the similar that I said earlier about, and I'm blanking on who we talked about it with earlier. The left on base percentage, his was around 80 last year. So when you kind of do expect that to like drop, like 80 is really high left on base percentage. That means obviously him being a huge strikeout pitcher helps him keep batters on, right? But if there's any sort of regression in that, the ERA rises, right?
Usually you think of a strand rate like 75%. That's typically about average, I would say.
Which is exactly where they put him in the projections.
So what does it move his ERA to?
About 2.9.
Yeah.
So
it rises a little bit, but
still very good.
You're not going to complain, right? If he banks me 100 if he goes 175, 180 innings of a 2.9 ERA and strikes out probably 220 batters, I think he'll be okay.
Like 196 innings, so yeah.
Oh, so how many strikeouts do they have? 230?
229, 230.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. He does that, you're going to be okay. Even if
you'll be fine. I'm just saying, like, I know people are, it happens. People look at it like, oh, what do you mean? I had 2.9, 2.39 ERA last year. He's 2.9 this year, or even a 3.1. He guys didn't do what I wanted to do. Like, guys, he's fine. Relax.
Variability happens in baseball. It is the most variable sport. You just got to live with the fact that, maybe he won't repeat in the league leading ERA, but it's going to be pretty good. That I feel confident saying.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, that is it for the top 10 starting pitchers. Corey, thanks for running through your top 10 with us. If you want to get all of the updated rankings throughout draft season, check them out over on Fantasy Six Pack. You got to become an All Access member to do it. Use promo code F6PMLB25 to save 15%. And hit that subscribe button, the like button, and join the Fantasy Six Pack series. I would love to play against everybody, and it's a good time. So, without further ado, see you next time. Peace.